Okay. Welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football before we hit the pitch. If you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us already. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Angle. What is up, man?
I'm hanging in there, buddy. In a week where I think a lot of women's football fans could have used some good news, some finally arrived.
We got the news today via Instagram. The supernova, Lily Yohannes, has decided that the U.S. women's national team will be her home for international football. Let's just take a sec. Well, actually, should we celebrate? Is there something that we should be doing now?
How do you
usually do at this point in the show?
How do you typically celebrate? Because I personally prefer a frosty beverage.
Get the old USNA in the frame here.
Nicely done.
Let's go. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to some good news. How about that?
Exactly. It's about time. So let's start for anybody who may be uninitiated, which if you're a follower of this program is definitely not you, but in case anybody has stumbled over our show, Lily Yohannes is a 17-year-old phenom, plays midfielder for Ajax. Her and her family moved to the Netherlands when she was 10 years old, but she was born in Springfield, Virginia, making her a U.S. citizen, obviously. Lily then started training with Ajax women's team at the age of 13 and signed a contract with them last year in 2023. She played in Eredivisie round for Ajax, and she has the record of being the youngest player to ever start a game in the group stage of the UEFA Women's Champions League.
Let's go.
All of this to say, she's an awesome young talent, and anybody who's a fan, casual or super fan of the U.S. Women's National Team should be very excited that she's made this decision to join the USA.
Let's go. And I think it was real iffy. I mean, it's been a wild year when you think about this Yohannes story to begin with. So we got introduced to her. Oh, actually, by the way, happy birthday to the ITC.
Look at
1 year ago today, episode 1 dropped on the YouTube, November 11th. Let's fucking go. It's almost like our two stars are rising, at the same time, just kind of like light reflecting off each other.
That's what's happening, yes.
Yeah, for sure. But it has been a wild year. Obviously, Yohannes gets onto our radar when we're doing last year's Champions League coverage, tracking Ajax. Like I said, there's a young player here eligible to play for the USA. This is somebody we need to keep our eye on. And then Yohannes went insane in the tournament, led Ajax to the quarterfinals. Tremendous tournament, tremendous group stage, really for that whole Ajax squad. And Lily for sure was a standout player in most of those games, I'd say. Now, fast forward after the She Believes Cup, USA has got a couple friendlies against South Korea. Lily Yohannes makes her debut for the USA. I mean, we had been waiting very impatiently, I'll say. And long story short, comes into the match, almost gets a beautiful assist to Trinity Rodman, who rocks a shot off the post. A few minutes later, Lily Yohannes scores an absolute thunderstrike 10 minutes after entering the match. I mean, a dream start. There's rain, there's celebration, there's elation. I mean, we were flying real high. And then just a few weeks later, we reported on this show that Lily Yohannes was invited to the Olympics roster as an alternate. That invite, we know, was declined. Not sure exactly what was going on behind the scenes, but we do know that there was real uncertainty there as to where Yohannes would play her international football. Now today we get the news, decision's been made, and here we are. I mean, I think it's time to rethink the future of the U.S. Women's National Team. Really kind of shakes things up in just the absolute best possible way.
Yeah, I mean, going back to those friendlies, the kind of lead up to the Olympics, there had to be a reason for a young player to turn down an opportunity to be an alternate on the Olympic roster. What's going on in the federation? Or, you could speculate a million things. So, does this player feel like they could fit on this roster? Does this player feel like there's a real plan for them in the federation, within the coaching staff? There are a million things that could be going through a player's head to turn that down. And so I know you talked about it at the time. There was real concern that did the USA lose ground, possibly on the Netherlands, with potential Dutch citizenship on the table for Yohannes on the horizon. But now we get this news. you have to think it's only reasonable to believe, and her comments would lead us to believe that they have full confidence she's going to be a part of this team. And like you said,
Great point.
it shakes up the roster in the best possible way, because what were we talking about a few weeks ago? What's this midfield going to look like at the 2027 World Cup? And now I think part of that answer is pretty damn strong when you have a great young player like this who's going to be entering her prime, or at least the beginning of her prime, in 2027.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think we'll be old enough to enjoy an adult beverage here in the United States still by the time the World Cup rolls around. I think it's important to note, too, we talked about this a couple weeks back when we were breaking down the U.S. women's national team's matches versus Iceland. Yohannes, in her debut, absolutely looked like she belonged, and she was out there with Sophia Smith, Mal Swanson, Trinity Rodman. This was pre-Olympics, so these warm-ups were extremely important. This was Emma Hayes' first real go-round with these players, and Yohannes just looked, I mean, she was the player of the match, even though she played 18-ish minutes, 19-ish minutes, and was also the story. So this isn't a player, I think it's an important distinction to make. This isn't a player that has the potential to be great. This is a player that has great elements of her game right now.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a lot last year during the Champions League. It's how we became the internet's number one Lily Yohannes podcast. I feel like we took that crown alongside being the internet's number one women's Champions League podcast, of course.
Hosted by two bros.
Exactly. Yeah. Hosted by two bros in that division. That's our league. There are so many elements to her game in terms of her playing on the half turn, her always keeping her head up, looking for who's available for passes, her ability to get back and slide tackle carefully and play good defense, break up plays. Right now, she kind of alternates between being a defensive midfielder and a center midfielder for Ajax. If you project forward, she could be the type of player in the middle of the field where if you need her to play defensive midfield, that's great. You want her to play traditional center mid, that's great. I think there are a lot of elements of her game that she could project to be a number 10. It just kind of depends where you want her to be or where you need her at the time.
That's a great point. And I think how you got there is you see her make big time defensive plays. Like you see her take on more experienced players. Lily's got great size, great strength for a player her age, and she usually knows what she's doing. She usually comes out on top during those take-ons. But then offensively, the passes she's able to slip in, the angles that she sees that nobody else is seeing, great vision, great touch, great accuracy. So it's like, this is a player that it's going to be hard. I mean, we mentioned this too about Jaden Shaw being a tough player to keep off of the 11. I think Yohannes might be even tougher. And the best part, we've got some big time U.S. women's national team matches on the calendar, dangerously looming. November 30th versus England in Wembley. How about December 3rd, The Hague versus Netherlands? Wow. I mean, this is some sports movie shit. I cannot wait to see if Lily plays, what the impact is. I mean, that's going to be a ton of pressure in that moment. But you could see a player like Yohannes like meeting the level of that pressure.
Yeah, I mean, how could you, we've seen her respond to the pressure before. I mean, she played great in these group stage matches. She was in the group of life last year in the UEFA Women's Champions League, and she was just putting in performance after performance. And then everybody wanted her to come onto the field during those friendlies pre-Olympics. So she does. And then you had to feel like there was pressure there. And we talked about it right on the heels of that match, that she just came onto the field. And then within it felt like the first 90 seconds or maybe the first 2 minutes that she's on there, she just had played a real cool pass, took the ball easily, and then just played one across the field. It was like she's already getting in her rhythm. She just plays beyond her years. And so I think when you are a player like that, you're able to kind of deflate the pressure a little bit because you go out there with the confidence and knowing I can trust my first touch. It's not going to let me down. Now I'm out here thinking creatively, keeping my head up and looking for my open teammates.
Thinking back to those matches specifically, and I mean, you could look at all the matches, what she's done for Ajax this season, what she did for Ajax last season, also in the Champions League, and her brief cameo for the U.S. Women's National Team. It's like her ceiling is incredibly high.
Yeah.
You do see that with young players. Moments of brilliance are just like, oh my God, that was unbelievable from a young player. Imagine if they were able to do this consistently.
Yep.
You get that from Yohannes, but also her floor is also high.
Love that.
She's not out there getting cooked and like,
Yep.
having low IQ moments and, being like, oh, okay, well, that's a young player, making a young player mistake. I mean, every player makes mistakes, but she does not play like a young player. She plays like a veteran from an IQ standpoint. And then again, physically, strength wise, is able to keep up and even, sort of like outduel some of the players that you just walk away being like that. I can't really believe what I saw there.
Yeah. I mean, she's had multiple of those moments already in this Eredivisie round season. There was a match in mid-October, against Fortuna Sittard, where she has an assist and a goal, and she's just like hitting genius through balls. She's playing great defense. I mean, this is a player that, if you're going to sit her in the middle of the park, and I think everybody knows, anybody who's watched this show, but for the uninitiated, I'm very high on Croy Bethune. And so if you're going to have a defensive presence like Lily Yohannes in there, who's also a distributor, and then you play Croy Bethune in front of her in some way, or maybe they're both kind of patrolling the midfield, you just have a combination of vision and IQ that's going to open everything up for all the superlative attacking talent that this U.S. squad already has.
Absolutely. Imagining Lily going like full box to box and having free reign to be able to do that. You've got Croy Bethune, to sort of come over the top there. The talent on the wings. I mean, let's talk about it. U.S. Women's National Team. We had some fun with it a couple weeks back. Thinking about that number 10 spot. We talked about Emma Hayes having a really tough job having to make some of these personnel decisions. Obviously, this is great news for the squad, but you do sort of feel like, okay, now it's almost like getting a huge new chess piece and figuring out, okay, how do we reorient this? You hinted at it a little bit with the potential pairing with Croy Bethune, but where else does your mind go with regard to the future of the national team?
I love good lineup talk. Are you ready for it?
Let's go.
Okay, so in 2027, I don't know if we should count out Alyssa Nair. I think people who've counted out Alyssa Nair before have been made fools of. But let's just say maybe it's Casey Murphy, right, in goal. Now let's look at the back four. How does Jenna Neiswanger, Emily Sams, Naomi Girma, and Emily Fox sound as a back four? Think we can live with that?
I think we can live with that. The one note that I would make is I think they alluded to it on the telecast, maybe the Argentina match, that Neiswanger might be in a spot where, let's say that spot on the field might be open for some competition potentially with regard to where Emma Hayes stands on it. It could be more of like a playing style type thing,
sure,
but that would be something to look at. But that's an incredible back four. So let's go.
All right, we'll pencil that in. Now, what if we put Sam Coffey and Lily Yohannes as our two defensive midfielders, our two holding midfielders?
I like it.
All right. Now let's think of the three we want to put in front of those two. Let's put Mal Swanson on the left. Let's put Croy Bethune in the middle. And let's put Trinity Rodman on the right. And then we put Sophie Smith at the top of the pitch. How much intelligence, how much speed, how much passing? I mean, you're going to have Smith and Swanson just weaving in and out, players trying to chase them. And then you have the genius passing of Bethune and Yohannes out there. And then you have Sam Coffey just bulldozing players out there, getting your nose into the mix, winning balls. Yohannes is going to help you win balls on the defensive end right beside Coffey. That just sounds like, to me, I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back for the lineup I've created here. It's just, I have a lot to work with. You could even, in some cases, you could switch out Sam Coffey for Hal Hirschfeld. You just got players on players on players here who could do a lot of different things.
Absolutely. And I think it does change what the U.S. is capable of offensively, because I feel like even recently, the U.S. women's national team is still playing like a power puncher. Like, let's see if we could land a big shot here.
Yeah.
I think now when you introduce Yohannes, you introduce Croy Bethune, these are players that excel in tight spaces, genius passers, can sort of like pass the ball through, the opening of a drinking straw if they want to. Like,
right.
And that is an element of the national team that I think is a little bit missing. When you can't land a power punch, when you just have to kind of chip away until the door kind of creaks open a little bit, that's not something that the USA generally excels at. But I feel like you introduce those two players and a few more years of development, and all of a sudden it's truly, how do you want it? Like, pick your poison. We can go fast. We can go slow and methodical. We can break you down. We could fly past you. I think everything's on the table at that point. And I think that's the real coup here. Now, the last point I want to make is you mentioned all those players, and that's not to mention some of the other options. Kat Macario, Jaden Shaw, Mia Fishel. I mean, who knows if an Ali Sentnor grows into that kind of role. Alyssa Thompson, who cooked against Iceland. Emma Sears, who smashed home a goal. Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle. These are veterans that are probably still going to have quite a bit in the tank, even when we get to 2027. So ton of options. I think we expect the game to continue to grow. So that versatility is going to be important, being able to win different ways. But I mean, all in all, just an incredible day, an incredible bit of news here today.
Yeah, I think you described it accurately when you called it a coup for the USA, because on top of that roster, you might think these players are going to want playing time. These are elite players who are playing at the top of the sport in different leagues around the world. Who would you rather have manage those personalities and manage the football on the field? And to your point of how do you want it, if you need to switch up playing styles, Emma Hayes is going to have a mastery of every single one of those playing styles, and she's going to know when to implement them.
Great point. I mean, perfect person to be at the helm.
Yep.
We joked about it. We joked about it a couple weeks ago, like, loosely being on the road to 2027. Now it feels like we're on the Autobahn to 2027. We're just flying, feet slammed on the gas. Oh my God. I mean, these two upcoming U.S. Women's National Team matches could not be coming at a better time. But we're going to have a real test against England, and we're going to have a real test against the Netherlands. Couldn't be more excited about the future of the team. And this, I don't know. It's going to be in a week where we probably needed some great news. We got even better news than I think we could have expected, certainly as a show. Yeah,
once again, football found a way to kind of cheer us up a little bit. So that is extremely positive. And yeah, those friendlies, for anybody, especially any kind of silly Americans who might be England national team supporters, I can't think of any off the top of my head, they're going to be very interested to see, A, does Yohannes play, and B, what's it going to look like if she's out there with some of that great attacking talent? And can the Lionesses' accomplished back line hold up against that kind of attack?
Yeah, well, I hate to do it to you, buddy, but that Lioness's back line might look like a bucket of barbecue chicken to a Lily Yohannes and a U.S. Women's National Team that wants to maybe come out and prove a point. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it, man. Good job by you circling the wagons and getting this together so quickly. Nobody will ever know how quickly we put this show together. But you know what? Your boys, you talk about, Trinity Rodman's speed, Mel Swanson's speed. Your boys are still pretty quick too.
All right, man. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Sincere thank you for watching, listening, following, liking, subscribing, just plain hanging out with your boys. And remember to like if you liked, and subscribe or follow Into the Channel if you want more breaking news. Not sure how much more breaking news we're going to get, but we break down matches. We make predictions. We do drafts. We do a bunch of fun shit here on the show. So we definitely would love to have you hanging out with us. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle. A year in the books, a year to remember. Out here celebrating a birthday, getting it done. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. I wouldn't do the show with anybody else. I appreciate you making it 1 year with me. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, please go back, check out our interview with Orlando Pride defender Corey Dyke. I'm going to do it before the end of the show. Corey Dyke, ITC Hall of Famer. I'm putting her in.
Let's go.
I have to put her in because she returned the salute at the end of the episode. It was just completely instinctive. She's a great player already, but we got to put her in for that. With that said, thank you to all of you for watching. Thanks for rocking with us. If you're new to the show and you stumbled upon us because you heard about this Lily Yohannes player coming to the USA, welcome to the proceedings, and we will see you guys next time.